Just the other day, Nintendo announced their financial results for fiscal year ending March 2022, and with that, they had a Q&A with the Nintendo of Japan president, and there's a lot of interesting information going on here. I'm not going to read through this whole PDF. It's business stuff. It's a lot of numbers. There might be a couple things I want to take a look at, but what I really wanted to talk about is the successor to the Nintendo Switch. There's been rumors since the day after the original Switch launched in 2017 about a successor, Switch Pro. There's been lots of talks, NVIDIA leaks, right? Oh, new Switch Pro's coming out. Oh, the OLED model came out instead of the Switch Pro because Nintendo just couldn't manufacture them type of thing. There's always been talks. Always take that stuff with a grain of salt. But now we do have comment from the Nintendo of Japan president with their concerns about moving on from the Switch. And I want to touch on that a bit, because I find this interesting, what I would expect versus what maybe Nintendo is thinking of doing. Who knows, right? But as far as sales figures go, Nintendo's been profitable, man. There's no concern here, right? But over the previous fiscal year, the sales of the Nintendo Switch have gone down slightly. Still one of the highest selling years for the Switch console, but it has dwindled a little bit. And it could be attributed to chip shortages, manufacturing costs going up, that kind of thing. When you take a look at that, like the regular Switch went down 33.3% in sales, but part of that can be attributed to the OLED model launching last year fall, right? That sold 5.8 million, so it's still pretty close to the overall sales, right? But the biggest decrease here would be the Switch Lite. Like that went down 56.5% over the previous year. I'm not sure, is that due to availability? Is that due to just less interest type of thing? I don't know. I have a Switch Lite. I don't use it too often. But yeah, it's a little bit cheaper of a model. You just can't plug it into a TV. It's a pure handheld, right? Sales as far as big releases go, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl sold 14.65 million, and Pokemon Legends Arceus sold 12.64 million. And then the one that never surprises me for some reason is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold 9.94 million. That's freaking nuts, dude. I think Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is like over 40 million sold total, like maybe nearing 50 million, somewhere around there, right? 40 to 50 million units sold. It's a great game, but it's an old game, and it just continues to sell like crazy. I think part of it might be, not a huge part of it, but part of it would be attributed to the bundles they do for like the holidays and whatnot. Those sell crazy well, and a lot of times they come bundled with a digital version of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So yeah, that's a lot being sold over the last year. For this last fiscal year, they had 39 titles, which is 26 Nintendo first party, and then 13 third party publishers, million sellers. That's crazy to think these numbers, man. Like back in the day, you weren't selling games in those kind of numbers, right? Like a million seller was like, it sold a million units type of thing, right? It's kind of crazy. The sell-through, Arceus Legends, 11.4 million in 10 weeks. It's pretty respectable. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, 2.1 million in 2 weeks. Don't sleep on that game. Amazing game, but those are respectable numbers as well. Lots of digital sales numbers going on here. Titles that are coming out. Switch Sports already came out, but you know, not like I said. If you want to take, I'm not going to go through all this. If you want to look at all this, I will put a link in the description to the PDF here, so you can comb through it and study these numbers and type of thing, type of thing if you want. But yeah, a lot of interesting stuff with the million sellers and whatnot. Key indicators. I ain't bothering deciphering all that. But what I wanted to talk about and the focus here is the successor to the Switch. And like I said, there's been talks on this. The Switch, for a little while now, it's been an underpowered console compared to the competition, but that's not what it's always about. It's about the experiences, about the games that are put out for it. Nintendo has done a decent job with that. First-party titles, a lot of awesome third-party stuff as well. But definitely feels like some games have been a little gimped in a sense. Like there's been sacrifices made. Some games do have performance issues. Some games have taken a hit with, draw distances and things like that with the look of them. Arceus Legends is one of them that I think of like, man, this is a great game, but I could see where they had to make some sacrifices in it type of thing. But during a Q&A, Furukawa, the Nintendo president of Japan, right? The big dog. His comment when talking about transitioning to a new console, it's a major concern for them, and it's kind of a concern for me with the way Nintendo has released consoles in the past or successors to consoles, right? His quote is, "The question of whether we will be able to just as smoothly transition from the Nintendo Switch to the next generation of hardware is a major concern for us. Based on our experiences with the Wii, the Nintendo DS, and other hardware, from the Wii to the Wii U was a mess. From the Nintendo DS to the 3DS, at first was a mess. The adoption rate of the 3DS was not great. You remember the price point was kind of high. 6 months later, boom, they dropped the price down, type of thing." But he goes on to say it's very clear that one of the major obstacles is how to easily transition from one hardware to the next. To help alleviate this risk, we're focusing on building long-term relationships with our customers while we will continue launching new software on the Switch. We'll also provide services that also use Nintendo accounts and other IP outside of gaming software. We intend for this to help build a lasting impact for our customers or with our customers. He goes on to talk about how they've only announced a portion of the software roadmap for the next year, and there's still some surprises in store for people. But this comment about concern and how he specifically mentioned the Wii and the Nintendo DS, and like I said, those were two rocky steps in their hardware lineup over the years, right? And part of it, like the Wii to the Wii U, I don't know why. I wasn't confused. I went and bought one. I knew what I was getting myself into, but that was like the big story at the time. People are confused. People don't know what the hell this thing is. Is it just a upgrade that you buy for the Wii? Is it a whole new what is it? Oh my God, I can't figure it out type of thing, right? I don't know where that confusion came from, but like, I mean, the Wii is a cool console, you know, but it was kind of, when you go from step to step, you know, they started relying on gimmicks in a sense, right? For the next hardware iteration. From the NES to the Super Nintendo, it was power, and then, you know, a more advanced controller with more buttons, right? And we always expect the next console to be a bit more powerful, better graphics type of thing, right? Now you get from the Super Nintendo to Nintendo 64, 4 controllers, 3-prong controller, you know, analog input type of thing. And then going to, you know, the GameCube, change the controller again, and, you know, internet capabilities, you know, going forward, all this crazy stuff, right? And then the Wii motion controls to the Wii U, having a gamepad with a touchscreen and a display on it. It was like, okay, and then to the Switch, kind of taking inspiration from previous experiments all in one. What is the logical step to the next console? I think Nintendo is thinking, like, if we rely on a gimmick, that's kind of like one of their things. Like they've relied on gimmicks, but I think they're kind of being wary about it because it could be like they could be thinking a couple different ways here. My vision would be that the next Switch, the successor to the Switch, is just seamless. We could play our old games. Maybe there's performance upgrades. Maybe there isn't. I don't know. But I wouldn't expect to buy the next Switch and be like, hey, you want to play Mario Odyssey? Buy Mario Odyssey Deluxe. No, I want to play my original copy. With how much software has sold, I think it would make more sense. Like, the next console is an upgrade to the Switch with better performance. What kind of gimmick could you incorporate in it? I think they're looking at what will differentiate this console from the previous, because they don't want to make that mistake from the Wii to the Wii U or the DS to the 3DS type of thing. You put out the new Switch, the Switch Pro. I think Nintendo's still in a good position to where if they just put out the successor to the Switch, it's the Switch Pro, whatever they call it, they would be fine. They would sell like hotcakes, but I think they're just concerned with previous experiences, the DS and the Wii U, on how that will be perceived. What can you add that will make it special besides just power? Because Nintendo's never really, not for, you know, so many generations in the past, really relied on being the front runner as far as power goes, right? And I don't think they'll necessarily change that stance going into the future. I think they'll have an upgrade as far as power goes, but it's always like, what can we introduce that changes the way we play? And I don't think they need to rely on that, on underutilized gimmicks, right? And I hope that's not what they're focusing on how do we differentiate the successor to the Switch by having a gimmick. You know what I mean? Like the Wii to the Wii U, you could play Wii games, but you had to bring your controllers over and that kind of thing. I would hope with this next Switch, Like, you don't have to bring anything over. You could just play your games. It's just seamless, right? Like, if you wanted to, you could bring your old Joy-Cons. You can use them, but you could also use whatever controller is incorporated for this system type of thing. Like, if it was just all seamless with such a huge library, I want to bring my games over to it. Hell yeah, if you said the new Switch or whatever the successor is plays all your Switch games, you don't have to worry about shit. I would sell my Switch to buy the new one. Like, I not necessarily, like, you know, but that's something I would consider. Like, oh, I don't need this old console because it doesn't do anything different versus the new one. The new one does more, and it still plays my old stuff, right? The eShop, like, that's one big thing. Like, if everything was just kind of added on to, you know, not like the Wii U where you have to access the Wii through it, a whole new menu to bring up that system. If it was just all one big package, that would be cool. But I have my doubts. Nintendo's got to be looking at what will differentiate it and like what kind of gimmick. I would hope not. Like, what are they going to do? Like, oh, you're playing a game, characters cooking chicken. Let's have some kind of aromatherapy thing. Shoot some freaking molecules into your nose so you smell the chicken being cooked. Like, we don't need all that, man. We don't need all that. We just want to play our games, and you know, we don't need the crazy gimmicks. But I'm really curious to see what they do, hear what they, you know, wind up putting out there. Curious what you guys got to say. Let me know down below. Really do appreciate every single one of you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.